Hello and welcome to the computer learning class by Accelerate Computer Systems. My name is Arun and I will be your trainer today. Today we are going to talk about a very important topic, why we need to have subnetworks and how to create these. This is another essential skill a network administrator needs to have. When you start working as administrator, you will need to manage networks and move hosts to another network, etc. That is when you will need to have knowledge about subnetting. As first step into subnetting, let us first start why we need to create subnetworks and how we do that. Let's go. Let's assume that you are working with ABC Corp. There are just 5 employees who work in one room office and handle different tasks, and there is no real segregation of tasks. You are the network administrator and you have been given the IPv block 192.168.1.0 with the subnet mask of 255.255.255.0 from your network internet service provider. You give these 5 employees IP addresses 192.168.1.1 up to 1.5 with the subnet mask of 255.255.255.0. Now this means that everyone is part of the same network. Right here, everybody is part of the same network. Now that's easy enough, right? Now very soon the company grows and now you have 100 employees and 5 departments, but the IP block that you have remains the same. Now there is a need to have 5 different networks to make sure that the traffic is secure and not mixed up. Now there's a need to create different networks so that the traffic is segregated and easy to manage. How would you do that? We first need to understand some basics. Let us first understand in IPv4 how system calculates network and hosts. Keep in mind that routers just understand ones and zeros, which is basically binary. So let's first see the IP address and subnet mask in binary. In subnet mask in binary, these ones, they represent network, and these zeros, they represent hosts or end computers. In our example above, we have the full octet or 8 bits. If you calculate them, these are 8 bits. This means that these 8 bits can be used for hosts. And what is the maximum number of hosts you can have? You can have 2 to the power of h minus 2 hosts, as you can see here. In this, the h represents the number of bits, which is 8 in our case. You see, that's why we see 8 zeros. This gives us a total of 256 hosts, and we deduct 2 IP addresses and we get 254 usable hosts. Now, you might ask, why should we deduct 2 IP addresses? Now, in every network, the first IP address is reserved for network and the last IP address is reserved for broadcast. Router always looks at the number of ones in the subnet mask to identify the network. These ones. It compares the IP address with the subnet mask and knows which part of the IP address is the actual network. Once identified, the router then looks at the zeros in the subnet mask and compares these zeros with the IP address and identifies the host IP address. In other words, or in simple words, network and host addresses are present in the IP address itself, like this one. The subnet mask just helps in identifying which part of it is network and which part of it is host. Now let us see how we can create subnetwork. We know that the ones in the subnet mask provided to us by the internet service provider cannot be changed, but we can change the zeros that we have. Let us expand the last octet so that we can easily check the place value for each of these bits, like here. If we want to make another network, the first question that we should ask is how many computers there will be in that network. In our case, let us assume that we need to have 5 networks, that we need to have at least 20 computers in every network. Let us have a look at the place value for each of the bits going from left to right and see what number can accommodate hosts, 20 hosts, from here to here. We see that the number 32 is higher than 20, but the next number 16 is less than 20. So we need to take this number 32. Also keep in mind that in every network, 2 IP addresses will be reserved. The first one for the network and the last one for broadcast. So effectively, 32 would mean that we can have only 30 usable IP addresses. Now that we have decided that we want the network to be 32, we need to change the zeros from left up to 32 to ones, like here. Now the 3 ones become part of the network, right? But since these 3 ones were not part of the original subnet, these would be called the borrowed bits. We got the original mask, which was 255.255.255.0, but now since we have created a subnetwork, the subnet mask will change. The first 3 octets will not change. Like these ones, they will not change because we received them from the ISP. To calculate the value of the 4th octet, this one, what we need to do is we just need to add the value of all those numbers where we see 1. So in this case, we need to add 128, 64, and 32. The result would be 224. Thus the final subnet we get is 255.255.255.224. All right. All right, now let us see how many networks we can have with 32 hosts. Keep in mind that the numbers start from 0 right here. Okay, so we get from 0 to 31, 32 to 63, 64 to 95, etc., etc., until this number goes on until we get to 255. But we need only 5 networks. All right, so we will take the networks up to 159. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up to 159. We will still have the IP addresses available from 160 up to 255 that we can use in future if there is a need. So let's see how you would assign different networks to different departments. Now HR gets IP addresses from 192.168.1.0 up to 31. Marketing gets IP addresses from 192.168.1.32 to 63. Finance gets the IP addresses from 192.168.1.64 up to 95, etc. All of these departments, they get the same network subnet mask of 255.255.255.224. And why is that, you might ask? Why do we have the same subnet mask for all of these? It is because all these departments, they have received the same number of IP addresses, which is 32. Let us assume that the management wants to have separate network for the presidents of the company. Now there are 5 presidents in the company and you need to create a separate network for them. Let's see now how we will do that. Let us have a look at the IP address and subnet mask in the binary once again. Before we proceed further, do note that we have only 8 zeros. Right? This means that we can have only a total of 255 hosts. Remember the formula 2 to the power of h minus 2. And since we have 8 host space that we can use, we can have only up to 256 IP addresses or hosts starting from 0 up to 255. And we have already used the IP addresses from 0 up to 159 for other departments. Now we can use the numbers from 160 up to 255. All right, now before we start, let us have a look at the last octet with zeros and the place value for each. Which place value do you think will meet our requirement of 5 IP addresses? It'll be 8, right? Because 16 is going to be too much and this 4 is definitely less than 5. Now that we have decided that we should go ahead with 8, let us now select the bits from 128 to 8 and place ones for these. Okay, remember that these ones mean that these bits are part of the network now. These are again borrowed bits. These ones were not part of the original subnet mask that we received from the ISP. Now the only thing that we need to do is add the place values from 128 to 8. Right? We get 248. Now this is the new subnet mask. As far as IP addresses are concerned, since we need 8 IP addresses, and out of the IP from 0 to 255, we have already used the IP address up to 159. We should use the IP addresses starting from 160 up to 167. The subnet mask will also change. We need to add the values 128, 64, 32, 16, and 8 to get the fourth octet in the subnet mask. The subnet mask that we will use for this group will be 255.255.255.248. All right, let's go back to the building and add this information. Let us now add the IP address details for the management. We can use the IP addresses for 192.168.1.160 up to .167 with the subnet mask of 255.255.255.248. Keep in mind that the first and last IP address in this IP range are reserved for network and broadcast respectively. So you should not assign the IP addresses 192.168.1.160 and .167 to any end computers. What we did here in this video is called subnetting. It is the process of dividing subnet mask that you received from the ISP into different subnetworks depending on your requirement. Remember that this process applies only to the IPv4. I hope this video helped you understand subnetting. It is crucial for a network administrator to know the process of subnetting. Here we created subnetworks and you know the IP range for each department, including the subnet mask. In some cases, you just have the IP address and subnet mask and you need to find out to which network the IP belongs. This is another critical skill for a network administrator. We'll talk about this in the next video. All right, let's now summarize the steps that we need to take to create subnetworks. As first step, you need to convert IP addresses and subnet masks to binary. This is how routers work. They want the information to be in binary. As a second step, you need to highlight the host bits in the subnet mask and take their place value. Looking at the place value, decide how many hosts you need. In the third step, you need to add ones to all the place values to the number of hosts you selected and all the other places values to the left of it. Now to get to the final subnet mask, you need to add the place values with ones in the octet. In our case, we get the final subnet mask as 255.255.255.240. I hope this video helped you in understanding what network is and how you can create subnetworks. If you found this video useful, give this video a like and share it with your friends and family. Do consider subscribing for getting notified about new videos on this channel. Our goal is to discuss about computers and explain complex topics in easy to understand language. We work with students and startup companies in Canada by providing them with high performance and low cost computing devices to help them learn and grow. These Dell laptops start at just $400. If you would like to know more on how you can save on your next laptop purchase, do send us an email. Thank you so much for learning with me today. I'll see you in the next video.